Yes, welcome back, boys and girls, and good afternoon. I don't know, maybe it's morning or evening where you are when you are listening to this story. We are on part 3 of volume 2, and we are on Exodus. The children of Israel are now leaving Egypt. So we are reading Exodus, and we are on story 2 today. It says, On to freedom. On to freedom. You can find the story from Exodus chapter 12 and Exodus chapter 13, those two chapters. On to freedom, story 2 of part 3. Shall we pray? Good afternoon, dear Jesus. This day is for you. I ask you to bless all I think, say, and do. Amen. The sun rose the next day over a country that was in deep mourning. Death had entered every Egyptian home. Thousands of bodies waited for burial. All the firstborn sons, from the crown prince in the palace to the oldest child of the humblest boatman on the Nile, had died, along with the firstborn of all their animals. In Goshen, however, every household was busy and excited. Most of the Hebrews had been awake all night. Now, as news spread that Pharaoh had finally agreed to let them go, they were overjoyed. Eagerly, they grabbed each other's hands and cried, "We are free! We are free!" Some of them gloated over the piles of gold and silver ornaments they had collected from the Egyptians. They wondered what they would do with so much wealth. Others thanked God for his protecting care through the night. But they had no time to waste. Pharaoh might change his mind again, as he had before. If they were going to leave Egypt, they had to go right away. Moses had already told the leaders of Israel where everyone was to gather. Before sunrise, thousands of people were looking around their homes for the last time before they headed with their families toward the meeting place. Their wagons, pulled by oxen, were loaded with tents, bedding, pots for cooking, jars of food, bundles of clothing, and other things they wanted to take along. Some mothers had babies strapped to their backs, and others had bread dough on their shoulders in kneading troughs wrapped in clothing. If you had been there, you might have seen a little boy with a toy in one hand trying to lead a lamb with this other hand. You might have seen a little girl carrying a doll in one hand and holding a baby sister hand in the other, for I'm sure little girls had dolls back then just as they do now. All kinds of people, old and young, grandpas and tiny tots, were in that moving crowd. Mixed up with them were all sorts of animals: cows, bulls, donkeys, sheep, and goats. As Moses watched the people gathering with their flocks and herds, he must have wondered how he would ever get such a large company safely to Canaan. Now he could put to use his early training in the royal palace. Part of his education as a prince had been in the army, so he knew how to keep large numbers of people in order. Working with the leaders of Israel, he soon had the crowd forming into a line and moving out along the route he planned to take them. Gradually, a long procession took shape as the Hebrews started out of Canaan for Canaan. It must have taken hours just to get everything ready because there were about 600,000 men on foot, besides women and children, as well as large droves of livestock, both flocks and herds. And that wasn't all. Moses soon noticed that many people who were not Hebrews had joined the procession. Some of them might have been Egyptian servants who saw a chance to get away from their masters. Others might have just been looking for adventure. Whoever they were, they insisted on going along. And what a lot of trouble they caused later on. Moses must have wished many times that he had stopped them right at the beginning. At last, the great caravan was on its way. Slowly, ever so slowly, it inched forward, gradually leaving behind Ramesses and other cities that the Hebrews had helped build. The pyramids grew smaller and smaller until they were nothing more than mere specks on the horizon. The teenagers and children probably wished they could move faster, but it was impossible. There were so many babies and sheep and goats and cows that they couldn't be hurried. Some of the men must have had a great deal of trouble trying to keep the flocks and herds moving at all. Often a cow or sheep would wander off and have to be chased back into line. Somewhere in the procession was something that created quite a bit of excitement. It was a coffin. Among all his preparations for the Exodus, Moses had not forgotten Joseph's request that his bones be taken to Canaan. At first, nobody felt tired. Not even the children. They were all so happy and excited to be leaving Egypt that they forgot how weary they really were. They had been so busy getting ready for the journey and finding their right place in the procession that they hadn't had time to think that they were homeless now, without a place to sleep at night. They had been too busy to worry about the future or how they would get food and water. They had just wanted to put as many miles as possible between themselves and Pharaoh in case he changed his mind and came after them. But as it grew later in the day and the children got tired and hungry, the fathers and mothers began to wonder about some of these things. How long would the journey take? When would they be able to settle down in their new homes in Canaan? Had they brought along enough food for everybody? What about water? Would they meet any enemies along the way? Would wild animals in the desert attack them? Suddenly, a shout seemed to echo down the long line of people. The cloud! Look at the cloud! All day they had been enveloped in clouds of dust, kicked up by the heads of cattle, but this was different. It looked more like a pillar of cloud that went straight up ahead of the procession. "See the cloud, Mama," cried the boys and girls. "See the cloud." "I see it," said 1,000 worried mothers. "But what is it? What does it mean?" Then word passed down the line from Moses that God was in the cloud and would lead his people all the way they had to go. As the sun set and the sky grew dark, the cloud glowed with a light so beautiful that the people called it a pillar of fire. It was comforting to know that first night away from home, that God was so near. No one needed to worry about the future anymore, since the great God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob was leading them. Everything would be all right. He would take care of everything. He would bring them into Canaan safe and sound. Oh, what a beautiful story. God is always near. Every time He's always near, and He will keep us safe and sound like He did with the children of Israel. Thank you for joining in, boys and girls. God bless you. See you again tomorrow.